not proceed.
I call Jenny Marcroft.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's a pleasure to stand on behalf of New Zealand First and take my call and put my contribution to the House on this, the Misuse of Drugs, Medicinal Cannabis Amendment Bill. It is a pleasure to speak to this bill. And I just would like to begin my contribution thanking the Minister, the Honourable Dr David Clark, for working so cooperatively with New Zealand First on this bill. It is certainly was a pleasure for me to work with you, so I'd like to thank the Minister. Also to the Health Select Committee for the work on this bill. I make note of the contribution of the Chair of the committee, Louisa Wall, and also the Deputy Chair, Dr Shane Reti. I've just recently joined this committee, and it really is a pleasure to be a part of this group of very hard-working members. There are many submitters who spoke to this bill, many hundreds of submitters, and I feel that we heard you and we have taken a step further than what was originally drafted. Also for laying bare your stories, your mamai, your stories of the pain and the suffering, and we really shouldn't take that lightly, so acknowledge all of those who made their submissions, whether it was written or had oral evidence submitted. Hukurangi Enterprises, it's been a pleasure to get to know Manukari and to hear about their operation and what they hope in terms of economic development for Ruatoria. So thank you to him for helping me understand what they are trying to do inside of this. Just commenting back to Louisa Wall's contribution and the 7 amendments that were made inside the Health Select Committee and 5 making it into the supplementary order paper, that's a good amount of work that was done in that process. And also to, Sativex, which she mentioned, is a product that is currently available by prescription, and it is, for some, extremely expensive and therefore out of reach for many people. Some people having to pay around $1,200 per month to access this medicinal product. Some also too, I have a friend who it costs him for his daughter $500 a month. So that's on the perhaps lower end, and he can well afford it, but it is prohibitive for many. So we set out as a government to make this product more readily available, a good high-quality product, and easily accessible, because the price point wasn't putting it out of reach for all New Zealanders. So looking at now what the bill sets out to do, Madam Speaker, we did find as a coalition a common way forward together for our approach to medicinal cannabis. Now, those of us who have watched loved ones pass from the likes of cancer, as I have. I've watched my mother who had breast cancer. It took 4 years for her to die. That was a long number of years to watch the pain and suffering as she was eventually riddled with cancer. Also, too, a double whammy for me. I had a foster mother who also passed from cancer. So I do understand from a personal lived experience what it is like to watch that end-of-life phase, that process of someone dying in extreme pain, but slowly. And that's the thing, it can take a very long time. So I'll talk more to that about why we added and did a language change around the palliation. I'll talk about that in just a moment. New Zealand First believes that the Misuse of Drugs, Medicinal Cannabis Amendment Bills shows compassion to those who are dying in terrible pain, and this is why we support this legislation. Currently, yes, I've mentioned that there is a legal pathway for people to obtain medicinal cannabis products on prescription from a medical practitioner. However, as I've referenced already, access to affordable medicinal cannabis products is problematic for many New Zealanders. So to address this, the government agreed late last year, just a year ago, to introduce the Medicinal Cannabis Scheme and to amend the Misuse of Drugs Act 1975. So this bill, Madam Speaker, sets out to do a few things, important things. It will introduce the exception and statutory defence for people in palliation to possess and use illicit cannabis and to possess a cannabis utensil. It will also provide a regulation-making power to enable the setting of standards that products manufactured, imported or supplied under licence must meet. And also it will deschedule cannabidiol, also referred to as CBD, so it's no longer a controlled drug. The scheme will be overseen, Madam Speaker, by an agency that will result in medicinal cannabis products being able to be commercially produced in New Zealand and will ensure that all medicinal cannabis products meet quality standards, and all stages of cultivation, production and supply of medicinal cannabis will be licensed. So there's going to be great oversight on it. Looking now at what palliation is, and this is the language change that I referenced earlier, Madam Speaker. This is extending, originally when the bill came into the House, it referenced terminal illness and people having less than 12 months to live would have that statutory defence. However, through an SOP through the Minister, we see that was now changed out to palliation, and this could affect up to around 25,000 people per year. So that's extending to a larger number of people who are suffering and dying in pain. So looking at the World Health Organisation definition of what is palliation, palliative care is an approach that improves the quality of life of patients and their families facing the problem associated with life-threatening illness. It will provide relief from pain and other distressing symptoms. It affirms life and regards dying as a normal process. It intends neither to hasten nor postpone death. It offers a support system to help patients live as actively as possible until death. And it offers a support system to help the family cope during the patient's illness and in their own bereavement. I mentioned earlier, Madam Speaker, about my mother who died. It took 4 years for cancer to take her. And on her, pretty much her deathbed, she was in Rotorua Hospital by the end, and my brother was with her. And one of the final things she said was, "Why does it take so long to die?" And that's a statement that is etched in my heart. It's etched in my DNA. And that is why we are very supportive of extending out the defence, statutory defence for those who are in palliation. It does take a long time to die for some people, and we see that this is a compassionate response to those who need this. So the Misuse of Drugs Amendment Bill, Medicinal Cannabis Amendment Bill that we are passing here today, really it is a collaborative work across these government parties. Consensus was reached, and again I'd like to acknowledge the Minister for his efforts, the Honourable Dr David Clark, also too for our Green Party, the member Chloe Swalbrook, for working constructively with us on this bill as well. And so in final, Madam Speaker, I commend this bill to the House.
I call Dr Shane Reti.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this is